Good afternoon, everyone. We're just going to wait a couple minutes as participants roll into the webinar today. Thanks for joining us. Okay, welcome everyone to our Missouri Soybeans Biobased and Focus webinar. I'm Matt Amick, Director of Market Development with Missouri Soybeans. Thank you for joining us today. When you think about soybean demand or markets for soybean, what comes to mind first? Probably animal feed, food use, maybe biodiesel likely. But in addition to that, there are hundreds of products on the market today that are bio-based, using soybeans as a solution to provide more sustainable, renewable options. And the momentum and demand for these products is growing. Companies, fleets, consumers are looking for ways to reduce their environmental impact and their carbon footprint. Some of these products have been developed through partnerships with the Soybean Checkoff and soybean farmers. So whether it's materials that go into a vehicle, a road, a house, building, a park, or even a shoe, we have a solution. So today we're going to showcase some of the soy-based products and the companies that are providing them. We have a lot to cover today, so let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our panel of speakers first, and then we will go into our first topic. So our four speakers for today, myself included, but our first speaker will be Coble-Edwards. She's with KCE Group, and she's a consultant with the United Soybean Board. Karen is going to provide an overview of the work of USB when it comes to research and promotion of new uses of soy through some of these industrial consumer products. The next speaker will be Bob Woloszynek. He is the chief engineer for the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company. Dr. Woloszynek will highlight the work of Goodyear to incorporate soybean oil into Goodyear's tire portfolio. Thirdly, we'll have Paul Imbrock. Paul is the lead for Poreshield, which is a soy-based concrete product developed by our counterparts at the Indiana Soybean Alliance. And Paul will provide some background on Poreshield, its development, and how it can be a solution for making concrete more durable and longer lasting. And then finally, I'll provide an overview of some of the work of Missouri Soybean Merchandising Council to promote and build demand for these products and many more out on the marketplace. So before we go into our first speaker, if you do have questions, please go ahead and put those questions into the chat. We will answer those after all four speakers have given their presentations. And so first, let's go ahead and move into it. Coble-Edwards with KCE Group, I will pass it on to you.
Thanks, Matt. Really a joy to be connecting back. I see a lot of familiar names and faces on the participant list today. As a native Missourian, it was great to grow up on a farm in Missouri and appreciate all that you folks are doing. And I also want to give a shout out to Missouri Soybean, not only for having this webinar, but also for the work that you've done in bio-based products that has really been an example to many others across the country. I've been working here in Washington, D.C. on bio-based products for over 2 decades now. And the example of the innovation center that you built there with using it so many different bio-based products, we've shared that far and wide with a variety of different folks here in Washington, D.C. in hopes that they will follow your example. But in today's remarks, I want to quickly, I am from the Show Me State, so I wanted to show you some examples of how bio-based products that you, frankly, I see all of you as investors in these, because through your checkoff, you have helped a lot of different companies like Bob Woloszynek from Goodyear invest in the new technology for soybean oil or soy protein to displace petroleum or harsh chemicals in products that people literally around the world are now using. And it gets really exciting, having worked in this for so long, to see how many of the products are now commercially available. As Matt mentioned, there's hundreds of them. So when we go in and talk to New York City or here in Washington, D.C., we have a lot of options to say we can work with you and help let soy be part of the solution for your sustainability programs that are really a big push in the big cities. But I'm going to show you some examples of things that you can use on your farm as well today. So, and in fact, this first slide, those are Okabashi sandals that are made with about 45% soybean oil in them. They're one of less than 1% of U.S. shoes are made in, or shoes sold in America are made in America. I remember the day when all the little towns down there in the Ozarks had a shoe factory, and those are long gone. But this is a company in Georgia, Okabashi, that has been very loyal to using soy, and you can find those products online as well as in some Targets and more. So I am trying to advance my slides, and it is not letting me move forward. So Bob Woloszynek is going to tell you more about the new tires. There are 8 lines of tires. Goodyear has been an amazing partner to U.S. soybean farmers in innovating and also spreading the word, using the name of soy in their messaging that we can then share with others. And we're very excited about the fact that Goodyear's soy technology is also available on certain Skechers shoes. And this is the kind of checkoff investment that you love to see, is that the technology gets adopted in even broader uses. This photo is how soy is being used in asphalt. The soybean checkoff, the United Soybean Board and Iowa Soybean partnered with Iowa State University to develop a variety of asphalt materials that use soybeans, both high oleic and conventional. And those soybeans can actually increase the amount of reclaimed asphalt that goes back into the roads. So there are a variety of these products now being made commercially available by a company out of Iowa called Coble-Edwards. And really proud for our team to have worked with the National Park Service. That photo was taken at Badlands National Park, where the National Park Service is piloting both the use of the Coble-Edwards materials, as well as a product this is a photo from Mississippi State. This is a product made by Excel. Also, the original research on this product was developed with checkoff investment. This product is also being used in Alaska, for example, where they're concerned about the paints washing into the water supplies and also affecting salmon. Interestingly, this project at Mississippi State was done in the cross sections with a Bloomberg grant to do asphalt art projects, because they've actually found a safety benefit. When you paint intersections, you can get people to slow down, which, as we all know, is a challenge on university campuses. But there are a variety of materials for roads, and you're going to hear more from Paul Imbrock a little bit later, who's the expert on Poreshield. But we have given a draft, if anybody's interested in sharing a little overview, a sample email for your county engineer or your township road commissioner Matt Amick has a copy of that for your consideration. And all of these products, the commercially available products, USB shares on our website that is soybiobased.org. Also, the asphalt in roofs, if you think about the deterioration of your shingles, soybean oil can increase the life of a roof, and their Roof Max makes that product. There's also work on that from the Color Biotics company up in Iowa as well. This is a really exciting story of how soy is being a solution for people's health. The picture on the left, I actually took that at Old Fort, North Carolina. That is a tanker of soy flour from Benson Hills plant in Iowa. And for those of you from northern Missouri, maybe some of your soybeans went into that. But the Columbia Forest Products Company is making formaldehyde-free plywood. And you see the picture on the right there actually shows how they label everything that goes to Home Depot with the recognition that it has the soy in it. And we love companies like them and Goodyear that will share with their customers the benefits of soy. I think you're going to see a lot more opportunities for U.S. soybean farmers as your biodiesel and renewable diesel success is transitioning to needing to find more demand for soy protein. Obviously, products like this, USB has done research that indicates that the wood products sector as a total is an opportunity for more soy protein use, and we're in conversations with Columbia Forest Products and others to see if we can expand the use of this. But it's a really cool story. They actually won the EPA Green Chemistry Award. The researcher who developed it was watching how mussels cling to the rocks in the ocean and said, how are they doing that? And his research found that it was a protein. He mimicked that protein by using soy protein. And now they have literally put enough soy flour in panels of plywood that if you stretch them, they would go clear to the moon. And we're hoping to see more of those uses in the near future. I know you've got that product in your cabinets there in Missouri. This is a University of Tennessee example. If any of you are online, I would urge you to follow the Shanty to Chic do-it-yourself crowd, because they use this product almost exclusively. And it's a great example of something that you can use in your own home. There's a plant in Crestwood in Kansas that makes that product too. So a lot of different opportunities for that in beds and bookshelves and a whole lot more. This is the dust product that was developed with some support from the checkoff. Dust, it replaces graphite and talc for all of you farmers who don't like that black on your hands come, I know planting season is on its way. Here's a couple of examples. There in Missouri, you have an amazing distributor for the soy-backed artificial grass, Sinlawn. Husband and wife team own Sinlawn, as well as the sister company AstroTurf. We are working with AstroTurf's turf to see if we can get the use of soy across the sports fields. But for right now, the primary application is the use of soy in artificial grasses. And these are two examples of how farmers have actually put that in their own residences. Greg Anderson from Nebraska there on the left, he's got 50 years of growing crops, but he's like, I've never had a green front yard until I put this product down. And on the right, golf courses, Sinlawn selling to 20 different countries out of the world, all using U.S. soy. And golf courses is a big demand because they use so much water. And this is a way to reduce that water and pesticide use but I wanted to give you a couple of examples. This is a Kansas City area school that this is not their sports field, obviously, but you see some of the innovative uses of the soyback grass there in Missouri. And we've seen it on rooftops and many more. And this photograph is an Episcopal school out of Kansas City but you can see how they can actually put your logo right into the grass. And that's what they did at NASA Kennedy Space Center too. I was just there right after Commodity Classic, and their grass looks fantastic, where they have a lot of heavy traffic. In fact, the rocket launches at Kennedy Space Center that's where they put all the people that are waiting to see it, and it's got the big NASA logo on it. And one of the interesting new uses is to use this soy-backed grass in road medians where you can't mow, or there are other reasons to try to eliminate workers being out there. Just a heads up, I know probably some of you on the audience have fifth wheels on your trailers. And in fact, we're always seeing new products. And this is a new one that came out. This is an Iowa company that has made these little packets of fifth wheel grace. So I just wanted to share that as you think about the options. You can order that online. And if you're interested in keeping abreast of some of these new uses, then we urge you to follow the United Soybean Board's Clean Conversations podcast series. And in fact, Bob Woloszynek was just interviewed for that, as was an interesting guy from Columbia Forest Products who has been working on the soy research. So we hope you'll stay tuned with us. And if you have further questions after today, I am happy for you to reach out to me, or of course, Matt and the team there at Missouri Soy can help. So I'm going to turn it back to you, Matt, to take it on to the next speaker.
Perfect. And again, if you have any questions for Karen, please put those in the chat and we will get to those after the speakers are finished. So I want to kick it over to Dr. Bob Woloszynek with the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much, Matt, Karen, for the invite. It's great to be here to talk to you about Goodyear's use of soybean oil in select products. So I first want to start off with our corporate responsibility ambitions. Very high level. The Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company has a number of short and long-term goals that demonstrate our commitment to build a better future for generations to come. And you could just see a couple of these. Some of them are based on product performance, such as reducing rolling resistance by 40% and tire weight by 9% from a 2005 baseline. That one's coming up. Obviously, safety is a major concern. But if you see all the way on the right, by 2030, we're hoping to have our bold goal is to have the first 100% sustainable material tire out in the marketplace. Continuing on, we have some longer term goals, and the one that most everyone on this call is familiar with is a goal we announced a couple of years ago to fully replace petroleum-derived oils in our products by the year 2040. And that is where soybean oil is going to play such a key role, and we're well on our way towards achieving that goal. And then you could see some other long-term goals. By 2050, we're hoping to reach net zero value chain greenhouse gas emissions. And transforming our manufacturing operations and processes to all renewable energy to significantly reduce our carbon footprint by 2040. So again, some very ambitious long-term goals, all in the name of corporate responsibility. And that's where sustainable materials such as soybean oil really come in. So if we take a look at our overall Goodyear Better Future platform, this really guides our work. And there are 4 pillars to this: sustainable sourcing, responsible operations, advanced mobility, and inspiring culture. In our team, we actively seek sustainable material options that can deliver product performance while meeting our high quality standards for safety as well. And then to advance Goodyear's sustainable material use, our technology teams work to investigate new alternative raw materials and incorporate innovative solutions. And that is where soybean oil comes in. We've been working closely with the United Soybean Board dating all the way back to 2011. And it started out as we're always looking for new raw materials to improve our product performance. And people have no idea the complexity of a modern tire, the materials, the design, the engineering that goes into them. And we looked at soybean oil as an alternative for petroleum-based oil, looking to see if a triglyceride would have enough unique properties where we could actually take advantage of it for performance reasons. So, and again, you know, everyone here knows soybean oil is domestic, abundant, renewable. There's a significant surplus available beyond food uses, you know, which makes it have a very low environmental impact. So, you know, we feel comfortable using it, knowing that we're not adversely impacting food uses. Our procurement team announced a sustainable soybean oil procurement policy a little over a year ago. And that is also part of that Better Future platform. And then the things that make soybean oil unique and the way we've been able to leverage it is that we could get increased pliability of our compounds at low temperatures, because soybean oil has a very low glass transition temperature. So the way you could think about it is it's the temperature at which something goes from rubber-like to hard and brittle, kind of glassy-like. So compared to petroleum-based oil, soybean oil has a much lower glass transition temperature. So it really has allowed us to tap in and break some trade-offs that we get between wet traction and snow traction. We're able to keep the compound pliable across a broader temperature range with soybean oil, and that allows us to get premium performance in all weather conditions. And another benefit of soybean oil is that compared to the petroleum-based oils that we use, it mixes more easily with the rubber that we use in our compounds. So that means there's multiple ways that we could leverage it. We could replace petroleum oil sort of at the same level, part for part, and get improvements in processing. Or we could shoot for equivalent processing, which would be a viscosity reduction, but then it gives us flexibility in the overall compound formulation or recipe, and allows us to incorporate other material technologies to improve performance without taking a hit in our processing efficiency. So, you know, that versatility, giving us performance and processing, led us to, you know, make our long-term goal of fully replacing petroleum-based oils by 2040. And now I would like to highlight the multiple products that Goodyear has out in the marketplace. Now these are what I'm showing you here, with the exception of the Eagle Enforcer All Weather. These are passenger and light truck tires. So the Assurance Weather Ready was our first tire. This won Tire Technology International's Environmental Achievement of the Year. That was a full replacement of petroleum-based oil in the tread compound. And it's our best all-weather traction tire. We took that technology and moved it into the Eagle Enforcer All Weather, which is a police pursuit tire with all-weather traction. So this would be a year-round pursuit rated tire, where typical pursuit tires are either dedicated summer or dedicated winter. Soybean oil was an enabling material that allowed us to offer a pursuit product in an all-weather category. The Eagle Exhilarate is ultra high performance. That is typically a summer-only tire. but soybean oil was an enabler for us to still bring that ultra high performance in wet, dry summer conditions and make it into an all-season tire. The Assurance Comfort Drive is a successor to the very successful Assurance Comfort Tread. And that tire was a 62% overall reduction in the use of petroleum oil compared to the predecessor tire. It's another excellent offering in our premium lineup. And then late last year, we launched our first light truck tire to include soybean oil. So that's the Wrangler Workhorse HT. And again, soybean oil is used in the tire tread compound of all of these tires. And then we also expanded the use of soybean oil into commercial truck tires. We started with 2 Goodyear Metro Miler tires. So think city bus for those applications. And you could see from the infographics on the right for both the Metro Miler tires and the Endurance WHA waste haul tires, replacing the petroleum-based oil in the tread. You could see it's not an insignificant amount of soybean oil per tire. And then when you start thinking about the number of tires per vehicle and the number of vehicles per fleet, you start to see the significant reduction in the use of petroleum oil that Goodyear's having. And that's consistent with, our Goodyear Better Future initiatives. So I'd like to thank you for your time. And again, when we get to the end of this, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Bob. And I just want to, kind of reiterate in your presentation, not only are we getting this kind of renewable, sustainable product, but we're not compromising performance. And in most cases, it's functioning better than the existing pipeline. So that's really cool and a really, really big benefit of some of these products that have been mentioned so far. So I will now pass it over to Paul Imbrock with the Indiana Soybean Alliance and Poreshield.
Thanks, Matt. Yeah, so thanks for the opportunity to speak to you today. Talk to you a little bit about Poreshield. I'll give you a little overview of the technology and what it actually is, but really wanted to talk more about how we got here through checkoff sponsorship and then continued support of ISA and USB for the better part of a decade here to make this get from point A to point B. So Poreshield is a new category in concrete protection. We call it a concrete durability enhancer. You might be thinking, what is that? We simply call it that because concrete sealants as a term in the market, especially in the transportation space, is a very confusing term that consists of a wide variety of products that have a whole series of applications. We can be talking about products that are simply meant to fill the pavement joints and keep fluid from entering them. That would be considered one type of sealant. Products that you might be familiar with that make a coating over the surface, like what you might treat your driveway with, would be another type of sealant. So part of this was a marketing effort to help people understand that what we're dealing with here is something that will function very differently than what you're familiar with, kind of setting the expectations at the beginning that this is a new technology, not a drop-in replacement for what you might be using. The original development here was with the Indiana Department of Transportation and Purdue University. The Indiana DOT came to Purdue and said, hey, our pavement joints are falling apart prematurely. It's a limiting factor in service life of a lot of our concrete pavements. Costs about $1 million per mile for us to go through and repair those concrete pavement joints, so we need a better solution. So the researchers at Purdue determined that they could use soy methyl ester blended with polystyrene to provide a more durable concrete pavement joint. And at that point, the Indiana Soybean Alliance joined this effort to help support this research and then ultimately the further development and commercialization as things went on. So like I said, what makes Poreshield really different here is that most of the products you're familiar with are going to make a coating on the surface. This is probably what you would have typically treated your driveway with in the past. The goal being that we're going to keep water and salt on that surface from ever absorbing into the concrete. Whereas in practice, that's a pretty tough task to accomplish with a coating because on the surface, it's going to be vulnerable to abrasion if you plow your driveway, even just walking on it over time. Things like UV exposure are going to break down that coating. Whereas with Poreshield, it is itself absorbed into the pores of the concrete where it remains fluid and hydrophobic. So rather than trying to cover the concrete to keep water and salt off, we're filling the pores of the concrete so water and salt on the surface has nowhere to go but to run off rather than absorb. So kind of a different school of thought, and that's where our marketing and branding approach really comes into play, especially like I said, in the DOT space. If I go to a transportation engineer with a state DOT and I say, hey, I have a new sealant for you, that could mean 15 different things, and he's probably not interested because that's a whole world of specification and product approval that is pretty detailed and in the weeds there. So some of Poreshield's advantages, like Matt said, this is really interesting because not only is it sustainable, it's cost effective, but it actually functions better than any of the other products on the market. So with one single application, you can get 10 years of protection, and that's based on real world field data as well as accelerated lab data. So significantly lower cost of application. If you're talking about replacing something like 100% silane, you're taking something that could be $4,000 for a 5-gallon bucket and replacing it with Poreshield that has a similar coverage rate and would cost you about $150 for a 5. So from a county or DOT perspective, the savings are just off the charts. It's actually incredibly easy to apply as well. It's a completely safe material, no hazards to speak of, no required PPE. It's safe for the environment and for land, air, and water. So you don't need to worry about overspray. If you're treating a bridge and a little sprays off into the water, it's certainly not going to hurt anything. It's also, as I mentioned, significantly lowers the cost up front in application, but also lasts significantly longer. So with something like a silane, you're replacing 2 or 3 applications that would be done on a 2 to 3 year timeline, maybe a 4-year timeline. With one application that'll last over 10 years. So the nice thing about Poreshield is in the pores as it remains fluid, it'll move and adjust to changing conditions of the concrete over time to make sure it provides that continued protection. So wide variety, versatile applications, great for county and DOT budgets because, as I said, it's pretty cost effective, very easy to apply. It also makes it easier to fit into your scheduling because you don't need to be training maintenance crews or anybody on how to put it down. It's very simple to spray it onto the surface and let it absorb. So it really opens up a lot of opportunities, particularly at that county level where it can be really difficult to be proactive about protecting your concrete because you just have a really tight budget and timeline. So trying to get out of the triage system of dealing with what's already damaged and proactively protect stuff that's still in good shape is a really difficult switch to be able to make at a county level. This gives you an opportunity to be able to do that with pretty minimal investment. So you can see here some of the different application methods that folks have put together over time, contractors for treating pavement joints and for treating full surfaces. The one on the right there I find really interesting where they took a John Deere ride-on lawnmower and stretched the frame so that they can put their material right on that mower and drive it right down the pavement joint and treat as they go. So they were able to do about $1.8 million project with 2 guys because of that piece of equipment that they invested $10,000. So from a contractor's perspective, this type of an application is an absolute no-brainer. It's a big money maker and it has very little hassles involved with it. So not only have we done the original use pavement joints, we've spread to bridge decks, we've treated hog slats, particularly around feeders, where it's a pretty aggressive environment of the salts that come out of the feeders and then the abrasion from the hogs around the feeding area, vertical surfaces, walls, salt storage building, mortar patch material. We're actually mixed into mortar patch materials that one company uses to do winter and rapid set patching. We're also used in precast concrete garages and a wide variety of DIY projects and university projects for sidewalks, patios. What I think is really interesting about this technology is the continued support over time. I think it's a really great story for folks at ISA and USB to understand what it takes to get a technology from the beginning to the end of commercialization. Not that we're at the end of commercialization by any means, because that process never really ends. But at the TAP meetings this month, we really talked a lot in a few of the meetings about what they called crossing Death Valley, getting from one side to the other. And I think what's really important to understand here is when you're dealing with a new technology like this, there's a lot of stages to go through. You have the idea, you've got to validate that idea, then you can go ahead and start to commercially launch. I think up to that stage, most of us understand the expenses involved there, right? We're talking about university research, pilot programs, initial applications, the material that goes with that. Then it's easy to think, all right, well, we've primed the pump here. We've got the stage set. Now this technology is great. It's better than anything on the market. We've shown it works and it's just going to sell itself, when that's just really not how things happen in practice. So in order to get from this early commercial launch stage through your early adoptions where you find out the pain points and de-risk your technology so that you aren't having things like over application and making sure contractors understand how to do things properly, is how you eventually get to the commercial launch. But there are going to be expenses all along the way. So where ISA and USB have really fostered this technology is not only in that initial development, but helping it get through that valley of death to the end to where revenue is finally coming. For this being a DOT project, that's a 10-year timeline. So we've been working on this for over 10 years and are finally into the point of some serious commercial sales and some sort of self-perpetuating business and the sort of growth we were expecting at the beginning, but it takes time to get there. So if you have a technology that you're funding in the early stage, the quickest way to get from commercial launch through the actual launching of your technology on a broad scale is to find potential partners, whether that's licensing partners, whether that's industry experts who can help you get that technology to the right people and in the right hands to get things kind of rolling. It's really important to get through, like we said, that valley of death, and it's expensive to do. So you may have spent $1 million up front on your commercial and showing that it's great, but it may take 2 or 3 more million to get to the end. So something to keep in mind when you're funding these projects is, hey, if we wanted this to actually make it into the real world and move the pile to use soy, which is what we're all here kind of trying to support, right? If we want it to get to that end goal, somebody's got to foster it through the rest of the way. Maybe that's a checkoff organization. Maybe that's a commercial partner that has a vested interest in the technology. But getting from point A to point B is a pretty complicated process that includes a lot of steps, not just the initial development. So this has been a great one. USB has been incredibly supportive. ISA has been incredibly supportive. And now we're finally to the point where DOT use is really spread. In Indiana, I would expect projects this year are probably going to use about 20,000 gallons of Poreshield, or at least 20,000 gallons of Poreshield. To give you some perspective on the ag side of things, 1 bushel of soybeans makes 1.5 gallons of Poreshield. So if we're using 20,000 gallons of Poreshield, we're using about 14,000 gallons or bushels of beans to make that. So starting to use things in a significant way. Now we can take the success from Indiana, and that specification from Indiana is already being used by a few states to treat pavement joints, bridge decks, and so forth. So really have to thank not only Indiana and USB, but all the other checkoff organizations that have helped us along the way. I know Matt's been a strong advocate for us in a lot of areas and gotten us into some trade shows and things like that, where we may have otherwise been kind of left to the back row and not really noticed, but that connection through Matt and kind of promoting it through the checkoff organizations really helped us get up to the front and be noticed by a lot of folks. So that goes a long way, because it only takes one county or one DOT to get that state interested, and then for that business to really snowball very quickly. So certainly appreciate all that you've done for us in the past, and thanks for the time to speak with you today.
Thank you, Paul. Really appreciate the comments on the checkoff and the impact that's had for your product. And yeah, certainly we're doing a lot of that work here in the state of Missouri. And that was a great segue to some of the things I wanted to discuss briefly here about some of the projects and partnerships we have in the state of Missouri. So on my screen right now, I wanted to just briefly touch on some of these projects. First, a lot of you are familiar with the Center for Soy Innovation, our office, the headquarters in Jefferson City, Missouri, the headquarters of the Missouri Soybean Association, Missouri Soybean Merchandising Council, Missouri Farmers Care, and several Biodiesel Coalition of Missouri, and several other organizations. And this building was put together for a variety of reasons, but one of the major reasons that this was built was to showcase the innovation in the soybean industry and some of these products that are out in the marketplace, some of these bio-based, soy-based products. So if you look at the bottom left picture, that's a view of our headquarters. The asphalt is a Cargill asphalt. It's a Cargill rejuvenating product that uses soybean oil in the actual asphalt mix. The Cargill, the asphalt as well has been sealed with a product called Replay. Karen mentioned Color Biotics and the Iowa State projects as well. That's another example of an asphalt rejuvenator and sealant that's out there on the market. We've got some Thin Lawn Turf right here as you walk into the building. This little patch in between the sidewalks. Our concrete sidewalks have been sealed with the Poreshield product. Our building is heated with biodiesel, so there's a biodiesel tank right here up front. If you go inside the building, and we'd love to host anybody at our office, at our headquarters at any time in Jefferson City, Missouri, whether it be farmers or industry partners. The carpet is soy-based, the welcome mats as you come into the building, a portion of the insulation, if you see on the top left, is soy-based. The paint, we've got a variety of soy-based products we are showcasing, including some of the things like the tires and the Skechers shoes. And so when we get groups into our building, it allows us to share this message about some of the products that are out there to them as well, and they can see and touch and feel some of these products. Additionally, we're in the midst of a campaign we're calling our Pod to Pavement campaign, and we are working with about 25 participating sheriff's departments across the state of Missouri to provide a set of the Goodyear Eagle Enforcer all-weather tires. These are the police pursuit tires that Dr. Bob mentioned in his presentation. This is a picture of the Cole County Sheriff's Department, which is running sets of these Eagle Enforcer all-weather tires. So look for more information on that as we release this program publicly, and we'll be happy to work with, we're happy to work with the 25 participating sheriff's departments in Missouri that we've already identified and we'll share publicly. These, we've also, as I mentioned, we've got several pilot projects with the asphalt and concrete products. On the far left, you see replay being applied to a portion of Highway 63 north of Columbia. And this is a pilot project. We work with MoDOT. You know, as you can imagine, MoDOT has a lot of things they need to do when it comes to testing and proving some of these materials. They can't always rely on the product itself, of course, so they have to do their own testing. And this goes a long way to showcasing the testing on the state level, and then that trickles down to the county level as well. So a lot of that information. So we've started this pilot project that we're coming up, like I said, on 2 years. And the center picture there is another replay application at the University of Missouri Delta Center in Southeast Missouri. On the top right and bottom right, those are the top right is the Poreshield product being applied to our concrete. Bottom right is the asphalt sealant replay being applied at our office as well. And we can showcase and highlight and promote these as well, and people can come and see how these products are working. Oops. Not too far. A couple other partnerships we've had, Roof Max. Karen mentioned it, the shingle rejuvenation product that literally gets sprayed onto shingles after 5 to 10 years, and it allows those shingles to last even longer. That is a partnership we did at the golf course in Columbia. The Sherwin-Williams paint is another one. I mentioned it's at our office in Jefferson City. The Sherwin-Williams paint, this is also at the Delta Center, that blue coat as well as the white coats that are on the walls there at the Delta Center. If you haven't been to the Delta Center, it got a big upgrade, and we're happy to have the Sherwin-Williams paint as part of that upgrade. Additionally, State Technical College of Missouri in Lynn, Missouri, they've taken ownership of the country club there in their small town, and we were able to put Sinlawn at their driving range at that golf course. So it's great for parks, for golf courses, for lawns, a lot of great applications for the Sinlawn product. So as we kind of wrap up the speaking portion of this webinar, you know, for the audience, my message to you is to ask for these products. Ask us, ask your retailers. I'm going to ask a question to the speakers here about how we can better access their products as well, but you have to ask for the products. Get in touch with us if you're having any trouble. I'll put my contact information in the chat. Email me, call me. We can help connect you to these suppliers to get these products into your hands. Direct these products to your local contacts. You know, Paul mentioned the counties, and Karen did as well. The county commissions are a great target for some of these asphalt and concrete products. As budgets are tight, this is a way for them to simply apply a sealant and allow that or a durability enhancer and allow that product or that asphalt or concrete to last for many years down the road without having to tear it all up and put it back down. So a great option for county commissions, municipalities that you may live in. Please share that product. Same thing, a good example for parks departments, golf courses in your area. Tell them about the Sinlawn turf. For your friends, fellow farmers, the Goodyear tires. Bob mentioned there's now a tire in pickup sizes, the paint, the plywood, the Skechers. These are all great ways. Help us help you, because these products are helping drive demand for soybeans, and we can use you as a spokesperson for these products out in the countryside. A couple resources, Karen mentioned this as well, the soynewuses.com. That is really a listing of all the soy products that are out there. And so you can go to soynewuses.com, soybiobased.org, similar. It's got a lot of stories and case studies and examples of how these products are being utilized in the marketplace. I'll also mention that USDA has the Bio Preferred program. And what that means is that federal agencies have a incentive, or they're really incentivized to pick out these bio-based products and when they're in their procurement strategies. So if you work for a federal agency, if you know of someone that works for a federal agency, obviously Department of Agriculture, there's a lot of sections of the federal government there. That's a great way to encourage them to utilize these products as well. So as we wrap, that is all we had for the speaking portion. So we do have some questions, and I'll go ahead and start with this question, just because I mentioned it a few minutes ago, and we can start with Bob. What is the best way for the people on this call to access the Goodyear tires?
You could go to any, authorized Goodyear dealer, and also on Goodyear.com. I'll tell you what, our online ordering, it's really user friendly. It's very easy. You could just put the year, make, and model of your vehicle, and you get all your options. And again, I outlined the 5 options that we have currently in the passenger light truck markets. But products like the Assurance Weather Ready, the Assurance Comfort Drive, those are going to cover a large majority of your typical cars, minivans, and SUVs. And again, with now the Workhorse HT coming out, that's going to cover the light truck segment as well. So the good news is that we got something for everyone. Ask questions. We've been training our regional sales teams, on the talking points and making sure that they are identifying our products as soy products. And again, we're going to have more and more of these. And we started with 1 in 2017, and just last year it was 3 of the commercial offerings and the light truck offering all popped out. So we're going to get to full replacement by 2040. That's the goal. So pretty soon you're going to have a hard time finding one that doesn't have soy in it. But for now, keep those premium products in mind, the Assurance and the Eagle products.
Perfect. I know a farmer on our board simply went to Goodyear.com, put in his truck and the size he needed, and it pulled up all the options, got the tires pretty quickly after that. So very interesting. Paul, what about you? What's the best way to access Poreshield?
Yeah, so the best way to access Poreshield currently would be to go to Foss Creek Corporation. Poreshield.com has a list of our suppliers, so you can certainly find all of their information there. They are based in Florida. They're our main licensee now, but they actually manufacture and ship out of Iowa. So they can ship anywhere in the U.S. at a pretty reasonable rate. And it'd be pretty cost effective compared to pretty much any other concrete sealer.
Great. And Karen, any good examples of how some of the products you mentioned, how easy it is to access some of those products?
Well, it's a great point, and I want to really reemphasize, Matt, what you were saying about how farmers can be brand ambassadors. You can help us build these relationships with companies like Goodyear and Columbia Forest Products, where they really appreciate that farmers are willing to use the products that their product that goes into. And in fact, we saw a really powerful example of one of the USB directors here in Maryland. We invited all the DC area fleets to go to her farm. We had high-oleic soybean oil cooked foods by a food truck out there on the farm, and we walked the walk of sustainability on the farm. Belinda was not only were family vehicles running on Goodyear soy tires, but she'd put Poreshield down around the grain legs. And we had all these different soy bio-based products, but importantly, seeing how farmers are using the products as part of their own sustainability made a really big impression. So on March 3rd, we have a Biobased Academy partnered with the American Lung Association. So American Lung came to Washington and they helped us honor the graduates of the Biobased Academy. And they flew in from Cobb County, Georgia, Madison, Wisconsin, New York City. They came here And it was really, really gratifying to have the Smithsonian Institution here in Washington, D.C. announce that as a result of going to Belinda Berger's farm and seeing the sustainability practices and that farmers walk the walk and talk the talk, they were going to make it their policy that whenever they switched out tires, they would rotate in with soy tires wherever available. So farmers really do make a difference. And I can tell you personally, I try to use these products in my own household too, so I can do it. And sometimes you have to get a little bit tough with your suppliers. For example, Columbia Forest Products, we had to have a bathroom renovated, and I had 3 different contractors swear to me that there was no such thing as formaldehyde in plywood. And I was like, you're not talking straight to me, because there is. And so webinars like this really help us all be informed so that we can be insistent that there are these soy options out there and we want them used.
I love that term, brand ambassador. I think you hit the nail on the head there, just with the ability for farmers and industry partners to really share the message. And there are some discounts for farmers for some of these products. Is there any you want to highlight on a high level?
We'll really appreciate the Goodyear certificate for a 15% discount off on the Goodyear tires. And Matt, I believe you and your colleagues have that coupon. It's been a really wonderful thing to see that recognition.
Yeah, and I'm in the process of putting my contact information in the chat so everyone has that and they can contact us if they have any questions about that. Bob, you kind of touched on it a little bit, maybe Bob and Paul. What's coming up in the pipeline? What do you anticipate coming down? And what, I know there's ongoing work with USB and the soybean checkoff. Any comments on that? Some of the things you're working on for the future with USB and farmers?
Yeah, Bob, you want to go?
Sure.
Paul, why don't you go first?
Okay. Yeah, sure. We've got quite a few different ideas as far as new technologies that we think will spawn out of Poreshield. What we have with Poreshield is a way to mass transport things into the pore network of concrete. So we've brainstormed many things that could be useful to get into the pores of concrete, whether it's to promote sustainability, to make a more durable concrete, to reduce the pore size, to make it stronger. You can imagine, let your mind run wild. Things like pigments, glow-in-the-dark pigments. For us in the Poreshield world, it's really establishing the foundation in the transportation space so that everything else can kind of be self-evolutionary from there. We have discussions with the potential big licensee that is hoping they could really expand upon the Poreshield platform and make it into all these technologies in the future. So that's one of the things we really hope to see. But again, it goes to speak with, if ISA and USB don't foster this through the market development, all of those other technologies can never spawn from this. It needs to have the fundamental business case of the root technology to make everything else work. So getting to where we've got really is going to open the doors for our future R&D and all the ideas we've been kind of playing with.
Bob, any comments?
Yeah, we have a lot of exciting material development activities going on. We just recently announced a 90% by weight sustainable material tire. It was a demonstration tire, passed all the testing, had lower rolling resistance, so better fuel economy than its predecessor. And there were multiple soy-based technologies that were part of that. So again, soy as part of the bigger picture. And then, this development work has been ongoing for years. If you notice, every product that's out there, we made the change in the tread compound. Now, those are more frequently refreshed. They differ more from product to product, but all along, we've been doing these long-term developments to start replacing the petroleum-based oil and some of the non-tread components of a tire. So think sidewalls, some of the other casing components. And what's important about that is those non-tread components go across multiple product lines within a segment. A lot of the tread really differentiates the on-road performance, and those are changed out more frequently. So those were easier for us to tackle first. But, if you think about it, once we get soybean oil into one of those other components, the volume, our use is going to significantly increase. And then it's going to go across multiple products all at one time. So a lot of exciting developments going on our end.
Awesome. Karen, anything from your end?
Oh, I got a good one, Matt.
Perfect.
So the checkoff, United Soybean Board is partnering with, you have the carpet in your building, but a sister company to that company has long been working on a soy protein-based fire suppressant. And this is really, really a big need because our nation's frontline workers, firefighters, are being exposed to what they call forever chemicals. And so Department of Defense, US, New York City, many others, Forest Service, are all very eager to find something that does not have these, what they call PFAS in them. So the checkoff is investing with that company. I think Paul did a great job of laying out the long journey to go from testing to commercialization successfully. That's why, Goodyear's done an amazing job of compressing that timetable. But stay tuned for whether your soy protein can be part of the solution for firefighters.
That's great. And, we've mentioned USB a lot, and I definitely wanted to talk about, MSMC, Missouri Soybean Merchandising Council. We have a whole strategy. We look at research projects as well. We work with Missouri universities, laboratories to do some of this work as well. Research, things like soy oleic, which is the non-GMO high oleic soybean variety or gene or trait is available now out in the marketplace, and that was developed through work by MSMC. And we're also doing a lot of stuff. We've done research on a soy-based battery, for instance, that could be huge when it comes to sustainability. So there's a lot of things out there that we're working on as well here internally, and hope to have more announcements in the future on some of those things. I think for our last question, one thing I kind of left out in my intro, if I could rewrite my intro, I would focus more on the functionality and the cost competitiveness. All of you mentioned it several times. It's not just about sustainability, but these products can also be, they have high functionality, better than products already in the market, plus they're cost competitive. Paul, maybe I'll start with you again. Any comments on that? Things you want to reiterate to our audience about Poreshield?
Yeah, sure. We typically, when we pitch Poreshield to people, we talk about the three legs of the stool. The first one being performance, the second one being sustainability, and the third being cost competitiveness. They all need to be there, or we're wasting our time here, right? If we have something that's sustainable and cost competitive but doesn't work, it's never going to get implemented. If we have something that's not cost competitive but sustainable, it just doesn't make sense to have one without the other. So like you said, I think performance is what we've always led with. I would add to that we've noticed in the construction industry an increased emphasis on sustainability, which has given us a lot of leverage in the last 18 months to 2 years in particular. I would say if the construction industry is finally coming around, I think most other folks are probably going to make it there too. So it's probably a good time to be leaning more heavily into sustainability.
Karen, any comments on that?
Yes, it's a great point. I like to call it the capstone. C standing for cost, A for availability, and P for performance. And that's where you have to kind of hold your ground sometimes with these end users, because we have run into this time and time again that government agencies and others will look at the upfront cost of a product, and they're like, well, we're not even used to buying a product to protect our assets. So you have to really stress that this is a long-term cost savings, and don't just look at the initial budgets. And to be honest, this can be a challenge because, people get paid to work under their current budget, and we need them to look at, as Paul said, the sustainability of the product, but maybe you're going to have life cycle benefits because your concrete is going to last extra long. And, I just have to say that, the fleets that we've talked to from all over the country, the Department of Defense is about to come out with a big study on the tires. They tested them at the FBI track here in Virginia, And these are high performing tires. And I learned this from Goodyear that, you know, your tire is the only thing between you and the road. And what do you put a price on? Safety. So sometimes we have to put a value on things other than just a dollar sign.
Bob, any comments?
I mean, soybean oil is in our tires because of the performance benefits that it brought. Green for green was likely not ever going to fly. At least back then, we're talking 2016, 2017, because there is a cost increase. It was small, but again, as you go and you start to increase volume, you know, obviously things are going to be more cost competitive. And there's also that complexity hit that we take or whatever, getting an extra oil and extra material into our plants. You know, but that incremental cost was something that we accepted because of the performance that it brought, you know. But now with sustainability now becoming a true pillar and something that our customers are demanding, both our OEMs in fleets, along with just, you know, everyday consumers, it's really starting to take off even further. But performance is what got us where we are today.
That's awesome. And I definitely have to mention, you know, these aren't just minimal demand avenues. We're talking, Paul mentioned 1 bushel equals about a gallon of Poreshield. Colombian Forest Products, I think they used about 150 million pounds of soy flour. Is that right, Karen? Bob, I'm sure you've got a proprietary mix, but when you're selling millions of tires, that's a lot of soybean oil. So it's really a good demand driver for all of us. I'm hoping at harvest, you know, one day these farmers are going down the field and maybe they're driving down a concrete or asphalt driveway that's been treated with Poreshield or used as an asphalt sealant. They're using the planter dust. They've got the soy-based lubricants. The grease pads are on their trucks. They're using Goodyear tires. It's just, you're using the products that you're growing in the field, and that's the story. It's just an awesome story for us to tell. It's exciting, and I appreciate all of your contributions and commitments to the soybean farmers and the soybean industry. So thank you for your time today. Thank you for all of you for joining us today. We appreciate it. This webinar will be available via, I think, YouTube, and the recording will be available. So my contact is in the chat. You're going to grab that real quick, but thanks to all of you and hope everyone has a good rest of your day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.